Houston after quite a few months, I think, that I was here last. Do you remember when I was here last? Okay, so it was quite a few months ago. So my thought for this weekend was to get some insight into Swami Vivekananda's innermost understanding and feeling about Sri Ramakrishna. And to do that through the hymns he wrote on Sri Ramakrishna. Swami Vivekananda didn't say much about his master from the platform. He was lectured all over the world, mainly, of course, in America and India and England. But only twice did he speak from the platform on his master. He must have told his disciples, his intimate disciples, about his master, but from the platform, he only preached Vedanta. And the talks that he did give on Sri Ramakrishna were telling about his life and his renunciation, his unparalleled renunciation, and his teachings on the harmony of religions. Those are the primary focus of his talks on Sri Ramakrishna from the platform. But who was Sri Ramakrishna? What was he really? That we don't find Swamiji telling us in his lectures. If we look at his letters, there we start to get a glimpse here and there of some of his letters. But even there, we feel like we don't get too much. But he has composed 3 hymns, 2 in Sanskrit and 1 in Bengali, but a Sanskritized Bengali, 2 of which we sang tonight. The first hymn we sing when we do the arati, we wave the lights and all that. That is a hymn in Bengali, ācaṇḍālāpratihatarayo, bhava, bandhana, breaker of this world's chain. In this hymn, he is describing Sri Ramakrishna as the one who breaks our bondage of which we experience in this world. And the second hymn, Sanskrit hymn, was the second hymn we sang, Om Hrīṃ ṛtam, describing Sri Ramakrishna as the refuge. And one of our Swamis has described these 2 hymns as one describing Sri Ramakrishna as the goal, and the second one describing the path to reach him. So it's an interesting analysis of those 2 hymns. But tonight I was planning to look at the 3rd hymn that Swamiji composed to Sri Ramakrishna, which begins ācaṇḍālā. Perhaps you have heard it. It has 2 parts to it. The first part is very slow and magnificent. It's all magnificent. The first part is very slow and without any rhythm. And then the second part has a rhythm. So if I sing the first line, you'll probably recognize it. ācaṇḍālāpratihatarayo yasya prema pravaho lokatitopyaha loka kalyana margam Trailokyepya pratima mahima Janaki prana bandho Bhaktya jnanam ritavaravapuhu Sitaya yohiramaha. Does it ring a bell? Some of you? No, not much, huh? Okay, so then it's my privilege to introduce you to this amazing hymn that Swamiji wrote. This is the first verse, and then we have another verse sung in the same beautiful tune. And in all these hymns that Swamiji writes on his master, we find that Vivekananda takes the position that Sri Ramakrishna is what we call avatar in Indian languages, or incarnation, an incarnation of the divine. From the standpoint of Vedanta, of course, every being is an incarnation of the divine. We are all divine. Hear, ye children of immortal bliss, said Swamiji. Ye are divinities on earth. It is a sin to call a human being a sinner. So we are all incarnations of the divine. But there is also this idea, common both to Christianity and Hinduism, that the divine actually takes a human form. For Christianity, it happened once and for all time. And for Hindus, it comes again and again. The divine takes form as the need arises. But Swami Vivekananda never preached Sri Ramakrishna as an avatar. Only in his hymns do we find this, and in a few of his letters. And let us remember that he also would never insist that anyone should accept him as avatar. He wrote to his brothers, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa came for the good of the world. Call him a man, or God, or an incarnation, just as you please. Accept him each in your own light. He who will bow before him will be converted into purest gold that very moment. So obviously he has this tremendous faith in his master and his master's power, master's saving power, transforming power, helping us to reach our goal of illumination, of the divine realization. And yet he also says, it doesn't matter. He would not insist, you should believe that Sri Ramakrishna is X, Y, and Z. Just accept him each in your own light. And actually that is his whole philosophy of spiritual life, of religion, that each of us has our own unique path to the divine. And he used to say sometimes, let the sects multiply. We have so many different religious sects. Let them multiply until each human being is his or her own unique sect. Because that's actually the case. Each of us is a unique individual, and we have our own unique personality and our own gifts and our own strengths and also our own challenges and weaknesses and our own unique approach to the divine. That's the speciality of Vedanta and Vivekananda's message. Yes, and Sri Ramakrishna's message, as many faiths, so many paths. And each one of us, our faith will be different. We have our own light. In our own light, we will accept the divine. We will approach the divine. And in our own light, we will also appreciate Sri Ramakrishna and understand who is Sri Ramakrishna. And so I also feel a little bit reluctant or hesitant to speak of Sri Ramakrishna as an avatar, because I don't feel that I am one to preach an avatar. Why? Because I personally don't really know what does avatar mean. We use big words like incarnation of God, but do I know what is God? I know many big words for God, but do I know what is God? What does it mean then that God becomes a human being? But looking at Sri Ramakrishna's life, looking at his amazing spiritual power, how he could transform a person by a touch, and seeing his amazing teachings, which are spreading all over the world, though not perhaps with his name attached to them, but especially this teaching of the harmony of religions, which is gradually gaining traction everywhere. We find that he was a unique figure, a unique phenomenon, as Christopher Isherwood called him, a tremendously powerful spiritual teacher. The disciples used to call him Guru Maharaj. That is why we also sometimes call him as Guru Maharaj, the great Guru. So in this hymn, this first verse, actually these first two verses go together, because he first describes Sri Rama and the qualities of Sri Rama, and then in the second verse, he describes Sri Krishna. And then in the last line of the second verse, he says that he who was Sri Rama And he who was Sri Rama, who was Sri Krishna, is now born as Ramakrishna. So he doesn't use the word avatar in this hymn, but he uses that idea that the one who was born as Rama and the one who was born as Krishna is now born again as Ramakrishna. And this is, interestingly, the language that Sri Ramakrishna himself used, not in public. We won't find him saying so when we read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, but to his intimate disciples he would say so. And we know that incident when Sri Ramakrishna was on his deathbed and suffering terribly from cancer of the throat. And Vivekananda, he called Vivekananda to him. And at that time, of course, Narendranath. And he saw Sri Ramakrishna suffering so intensely. And the thought crossed through his mind, if now you can declare yourself an avatar, then perhaps I can believe it. And Sri Ramakrishna immediately looked at him and said, still you doubt? He had only thought it, mind you. He had only thought it. Sri Ramakrishna immediately looked at him and said, still this doubt. He who was Rama, he who was Krishna, is now born as Ramakrishna. And not in your Vedantic sense. He said, because from the standpoint of Vedanta, we are all incarnations of the divine. He said, not from your Vedantic standpoint. So that message that he received from Sri Ramakrishna just a few days before he left the body, he has embedded in this first hymn. So let's look at the hymn. It's a hymn worth learning because it's wonderful to sing. Let's look at the first. I want to go through so that we understand the meaning of the words, so that when we sing it, when we chant it, it can be deeply meaningful for us. So it begins with this: ācaṇḍālāpratihatarayo yasya prema pravaha. Okay, so he's talking about yasya, he's talking about the person who was like this. Who's what? Prema, love, pravaha, the flow of love. It's a tremendous stream of love, a river of love, whose river of love flowed unobstructed, pratihata. Pratihata means unimpeded, unobstructed. His flow of love, rayaha is also this stream. This stream of love flowed where? To everyone, down to those who are discarded by society, those who nobody will look at or touch, the untouchables. The chandalas is the term used often. So here, ācaṇḍālāpratihatarayo, down to even the lowest of society, to everybody whose love flowed down and embraced all. And of course, this is in Sri Rama's life. There is this incident of the boatman Guhaka, who was a so-called untouchable. I was just listening today to a woman who was she's developed a system of determining your spiritual intelligence. Like we have the emotional intelligence and the IQ, the intelligence quotient, but she's developed now a spiritual intelligence. And when she was 6 years old, she moved to Mumbai, about that time Bombay, and she describes how there was in her home, they had servants, of course, and that was expected that people from the West would need servants, would hire servants to spread some of the wealth to the people, but nobody would clean the toilets except for the sweepers, the untouchables. So they also had an untouchable coming in, and they were told not to even look at them, because if they would look at them, that could be inauspicious for that person, that untouchable person, that they would get a bad birth the next time. They're striving to get a good birth the next time. This is the philosophy, right? The horrible philosophy of the untouchability. And so it's so painful for her to see that. And of course, in our order, we have come a long way towards breaking down those barriers, not by insisting, but just by our actions, and by welcoming all and forbidding any kind of caste discrimination in our service, or in our say when we serve the devotees food. They all sit together. Anyhow, this is the kind of people, and I've kind of thought, who is an untouchable here in America? You can say, at least in Los Angeles and probably in Houston also, there's a lot of homeless people living on the streets, and they're often filthy, and they're down, they're just in the lowest point of life, and maybe they're drug addicted and all that. And what do we feel? We don't want to touch them. They're dirty, they're smelly, they're living on the streets. So this kind of person, Sri Rama embraced intensely. So the story is that Rama had to go to the forest for 14 years. I think most of us know the story of the Ramayana, to fulfill his father's pledge. And when he came to cross the river, Guhaka was there, and he was so stunned to see Rama, and with tears in his eyes, he begged him to come to his home. And Rama called him his friend and embraced him. And Guhaka then surrendered himself at Rama's feet. So he was actually a king, though he is an untouchable, but he was also a king of the untouchables. And he said, I surrender my body and soul at your feet. You are my soul, my wealth, my kingdom, my love, my liberation, and all meritorious deeds. I am dying of love for you. I dedicate myself at your feet. So Guhaka, because Rama had to go to the forest and cover his body with bark for clothing and let his hair become long and matted, Guhaka did the same thing. He loved Rama so much. So he ferried him across the river, and then Rama went for 14 years. And he said, don't worry, after 14 years, I will come back and I will see you. So Guhaka matted his own hair and put on the bark of clothing and ate just the fruits and roots. And after 14 years, Rama hadn't returned. And then Guhaka, in anguish, he decided he's going to immolate himself. So he builds his own funeral pyre, and he's about to jump on it when Hanumanji comes running, and he says, no, Rama is coming, don't do it, Rama is coming. And then Rama comes, and they embrace. And it's described how their tears drench their bodies. They're embracing, and with so much joy, they're seeing each other after such a long time. They're both weeping, and their tears are drenching their bodies. So this kind of love Rama had. So it's something to think about for us also, that this is the kind of love that Rama had. And if we look at Sri Ramakrishna's life, we see also this kind of love. Those who are considered outside the pale of society, like prostitutes, he would salute them. He would salute them as embodiments of the Divine Mother. He washed the latrine of the sweepers himself with his own hair to completely remove any pride of caste. But particularly noteworthy is the sweeper of the Dakshineshwar Kali temple compound, Rasik. He used to admire Sri Ramakrishna, but he couldn't see him, he couldn't visit him, because all the devotees were of a higher class. So according to the terrible restrictions of society, he couldn't go see them. But one day he got his chance, because Sri Ramakrishna was going to the pine grove where he used to go to answer the calls of nature. And Rasik saw him going, and he approached him, and he bowed down at his feet. And he used to call him father. And so he said with tears in his eyes, what will happen to me? What will happen to me? And wept much. And Sri Ramakrishna's heart was very much touched. And looking at him with full compassion, he gave him this blessing: you will see me at the time of death. You will see me. So actually 2 years after Sri Ramakrishna left his body, Rasik also he became very sick, and it looked like he was going to die. He rejected all medicines. He only took the charanamrita, the holy water, and he spent his time just chanting the divine name and praying, and he went to his, he had a little tulsi grove, the holy basil plant, the holy basil grove outside his cottage. And he went there and he was lying there. And it seems that at the last moment, he started and he said, "Oh, Father, you have come, you have come." And then he left the body. So this is the love of Rama, as also the love of Ramakrishna that flows to everybody. It excludes nobody. Then the next line, lokātītopyaha najaho lokakalyāna margam. Okay, this is lokātītaha. He is beyond this world as an incarnation of the divine. The divine is, in its absolute, is beyond this world. It is completely free of any stain, any. It is beyond the moving and the unmoving. It is the infinite reality, and so lokātītaha. You are completely beyond this world. You can say completely transcendent. So on the one hand, the divine is transcendent, and yet we know the divine also immanent. So lokātītaha, transcendent. Api, though, ahaha. This is just an exclamation of, oh, how amazing. Though you are completely transcendent, oh, but also loka kalyana margam. You are always striving for the good of the world, for the good of all. Never ever engaged in the world's welfare, we can say, something like that. Though his true nature is transcendent, always doing good. And we find the same if we think of Sri Ramakrishna. We find that he had the ability to merge his mind in the absolute and remain sitting like a stone for days on end. And yet he didn't do that. He would beg the Divine Mother, "Mother, don't make me unconscious in samadhi." Not that it's unconscious, actually it's in full consciousness of samadhi, but he struggled to bring his mind down to our plane. Why? To help us, to teach us, to bless us, to grant us illumination. So this is this second line, lokātītopyaha najaho lokakalyāna margam. Then the third line, trailokye, in the three worlds, api pratima mahima. There is no one who can, your greatness is unequaled in the three worlds. The idea of Trailokya means the idea of the entire universe. Nowhere will we find in the three worlds, Bhurabhuvasva, or the earth, the sky, the heavens, or it's a kind of term that suggests in the whole universe we find no one who equals your mahima, your tremendous, your greatness. And then Janaki prana bandho. Well, Janaki, of course, means Sita. And we find in the Indian tradition that the idea that the avatar comes with a Shakti, with if avatar is masculine, then there's the feminine counterpart comes also. So here he notes this feminine counterpart, Janaki, prana bandho. How will we translate that? Prana bandho. You can say simply it's the very life of Sita, no? The very Sita's beloved is the simple way to put it, but it says just more of that that her whole life is completely centered in Rama. And it is said when Sita was in Lanka, was captured by Ravana and was there in Lanka, then her body was in Lanka only, but her heart, her mind, her life, everything was just focused on Sri Rama. Of course, her husband, her divine husband, her spiritual consort, but only her body was in Lanka. Her whole life was in Rama. And so here we also see a hint at Sri Ramakrishna, because Sri Ramakrishna's wife, a spiritual partner, was our Holy Mother, Sri Sarada Devi. And she used to say, actually, Sri Ramakrishna and I, we're not two, we are one. Don't think of us as separate, as different. So in her case also, her whole life was centered on Ramakrishna. When she was at Dakshineshwar and Sri Ramakrishna would be in his room, and she was a traditional young Hindu wife, she would be veiled, she would cover her head so you couldn't see her face, and she wouldn't come out if there were others present. So Sri Ramakrishna would be singing and dancing with the devotees in his room, and she'd be peering through a little hole in the matting that covered her residence, just standing there for hours watching. And yet she said it was like there was always a picture of bliss in her heart. So she had that constant experience of bliss, thinking of Sri Ramakrishna, watching him, serving him. She had the privilege of serving him and cooking his food and all of those things. So this hymn seems to also hint at that as Rama had a Sita, so also Sri Ramakrishna had Sarada. And then the last line. This last line is a little bit difficult to understand. Bhaktya jnanam vritavaravapuhu sitaya yo hi Ramaha. Yaha, all these descriptions, that is Rama. That's how the verse ends with Ramaha. But Bhaktya jnanam vritavaravapuhu, Bhaktya, with devotion, jnanam, knowledge, is covered, as it were. So by Bhaktya Sitaya, which means, as it were, devotion in the form of Sita, or Sita-like devotion, perhaps. So here Ramachandra is being likened to his pure wisdom, pure jnana. And Sita is likened to devotion, and devotion is covering the wisdom. Devotion, the bhakti is covering the jnana. There's a couple of translations. Here they say that Rama was like knowledge clothed in Sita-like devotion, or he was the embodiment of knowledge sheathed in devotion. Or, this is a nice one, whose body of knowledge supreme was covered by devotion sweet in the form of Sita. So this is the different ways of interpreting this line. Bhaktya jnanam vritavaravapu sitaya yohi Ramaha. So this is the first verse of this beautiful hymn. Let's read the second one. Are you with me? It's okay? Stabadhi kritya pralaya kalitam vahavotham mahantam hitvaratrim prakriti sahaja andhata misra mishra Gitam shantam madhuramapi yaha sinhanadam jagarja soyam jatah pratita purusho Ramakrishna Stotram. Okay, here, first verse, it's emphasizing Rama's love. And this, though his nature is jnana, he's covered with devotion, and he's ever doing good to the world, though transcending it, and that. Here, he's describing Sri Krishna, and he's focusing on Sri Krishna as the dispeller of ignorance, particularly his power of dispelling the ignorance of Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So it's a thrilling kind of description of stabdhi kritya, who has quelled, who has stopped the pralaya kalitam, that tumult that is as it were coming from the dissolution of the whole universe. That kind of tremendous sound or earthquake is stabdhi kritya, has been completely quelled. Vahavotam, arising from the battle. Mahantam, the tremendous battle, of the Kurukshetra war, of course. The Kurukshetra war is starting, and Sri Krishna is able to quell that tumult. And hitva ṛtam, he has destroyed, brought to an end, hitva ṛtam, the night of ignorance. Ṛtam is night. Prakriti sahajam, that which is the night of ignorance, which is actually, we can call it, it's a natural, sahaja can mean the natural, just the natural ignorance of our own nature. We all, actually, this is all of us. We are all ignorant of our true nature. We are all ignorant of the divine. We may know it intellectually. Yes, the divine is in me, and it's in you, and it's in all. But do we know it? So have we experienced it directly? So hitva ṛtam prakriti sahajam ācaṇḍālāpratihatarayo mishram. Andha is the darkness. Ta misra, actually, ta misra, I was looking this up. It's one of the meanings is a division of hell. One of the divisions in hell is called ta misra, mishram, or it also can mean the dark fortnight. He's referring to the darkness, the very deep darkness, the tremendous darkness of ignorance of our true nature. And so Arjuna was caught in this ignorance, and Sri Krishna dispelled it. How? This is what the next line gives. Gitam shantam madhuram api yaha. The Gita, the song of God, the Bhagavad Gita. Gita means song, of course. So the Gitam shantam, which is bringing peace, and madhuram, so sweet, the sweet life-giving message of the Gita, which at the same time is Singhanadam Jagaraja. Singhanada means with the roar of a lion, like roaring out the message of the Gita, and dispelling that night of ignorance, even though at the same time that message is so full of peace and it's so sweet, and yet roaring it out with like a lion, which is destroying the Arjuna's terrible night of ignorance and quelling the tremendous tumult of the Kurukshetra battle. That soul who did that, because Sri Krishna's name is not given here. He says only that one who quelled the terrible noise of the battle of Kurukshetra and destroyed the ignorance, the night of ignorance of Arjuna through his sweet message of peace of the Gita, which he roared out like a lion. That soul is now born as Ramakrishna. Soyam saha ayam, here, jataha, born, pratita purusho, that renowned person, that renowned soul, Ramakrishna Stotram. Idanim means now, in the present. So this is, one of the translations goes like this. He who was Krishna, who quelled the tumult, terrible like the sound of cosmic destruction arising from the great battle of Kurukshetra, who destroyed the dreadful night of primeval ignorance, and who roared with the voice of a lion the sweet and calming Gita. That renowned soul is now born as Sri Ramakrishna. So we can see Sri Ramakrishna also, he was constantly teaching. He was constantly teaching how? A lot of it was through song. He used to sing and go into ecstasy, and songs were one of the main ways of his teaching. And he would bring peace to the hearts of those who would come to him, and he would remove their ignorance by his words to a certain extent. And if that person was fortunate enough, by a touch, and literally they would experience. And this happened not once or twice, it happened every day, on a daily basis. He would touch someone and grant them spiritual experience. It's recorded by Swami Saradananda in Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master, the Leela Prasanga, that on that last January 1st, he blessed so many devotees and granted them the spiritual illumination. But Swami Saradananda points out that, yes, this was unique in the sense that there were so many people on that day all at once. But he relates that we have seen him do that countless times on a daily basis for one or two people. It was unique in that it was all those who were assembled there, or nearly all those who were assembled. So this is the role of the divine teacher, of the guru, to bring to an end the night of ignorance and bring us into the full sunlight of spiritual realization, of knowing the divine, feeling the divine, knowing the divine to be our very essence, the very ground of our being, and the very ground of everything. So this is the second verse. Now the hymn takes a complete turn, and it becomes a completely different melody and rhythm. And it becomes, it's thrilling when this happens, because the first part is so moving that and then it takes this new turn. So let me sing the second verse again to get the mood of how it changes. Stabadhi kritya pralaya kalitam Vahavo tham mahantam hitva ratrim prakriti sahaja andhata misra mishra Gitam shantam madhuram yaha singhanadam jagarja soyam jatah pratita purusho Ramakrishna Stotram Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Shakti Samudra Samuthatarangam Darshita Prema Vijrimhitarangam Sanshaya Rakshasanashamahastram Yami Gurum Sharanam Bhava Vaidyam Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva. So that's the third verse with the refrain. This second part has this refrain, Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva. It's a thrilling line that comes again. It comes, I guess, 3 or 4 times. Naradeva. Nara means man, human being, and Nara, and Deva means a god. So what is Naradeva? It means a god man, or a divine man, or a man god. Or how do you translate it? You say Naradeva, the divine man, and Jaya Jaya. Jai it means the glory, victory too, actually. Jai, when we say Jai, we say may the divine be victorious. But it also has this sense of praise, of glory to the this divine personage. Is he a man? Is he divine? The dividing line seems to have melted away, so we don't understand if he is divine or he is human or he is both, perhaps. And glory be to him. May his name spread far and wide. May his teachings be victorious and conquer the hearts of all. That kind of idea encompassed in this short phrase, Naradeva Deva, Jaya Jaya Naradeva. Naradeva Deva, Jaya Jaya Naradeva. Okay, now he gives some beautiful ideas in this next shloka. It's one of my favorite verses of Swamiji's on Sri Ramakrishna. Shakti Samudra Samudtatarangam. Here he's describing the ocean of Shakti, the Shakti Samudra. Samudra means ocean, Shakti means power, the primordial power, the Adya Shakti, which is associated with the Divine Mother. And Sri Ramakrishna used to say in his teachings again and again, he comes back to this idea that Brahman, the Absolute, is inactive. It is completely transcendent. It is one and non-dual. And yet, it is not different from Shakti, power, because we see in this universe a manifestation. This is a manifestation. How has it manifested? Shakti, power. This power which Sri Ramakrishna equated with the Divine Mother, Mother Kali. So Shakti Samudra Samudtatarangam. A wave. Tarangam is a wave. Samuttata. So he is a wave rising or coming on the ocean of Shakti, of power. And Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda actually, there's a thrilling letter which he wrote to his brother disciples describing Sri Ramakrishna as this kind of a wave. He says, let me read you this passage from one of his letters. Arise, arise, a tidal wave is coming. Onward, men and women down to the Chandala. All are pure in his eyes. Onward, onward. There is no time to care for name or fame or mukti or bhakti. We shall look to these some other time. Now in this life, let us infinitely spread his lofty character, his sublime life, his infinite soul. This is the only work. There is nothing else to do. Wherever his name will reach, the veriest worm will attain divinity. Nay, is actually attaining it. You have got eyes, and don't you see it? So he has this thrilling command he's giving to his brothers. A tidal wave is coming. What is that tidal wave? A tidal wave of spirituality, the wave of Sri Ramakrishna. So here he's describing Sri Ramakrishna as simply a wave on the ocean of power. And that power, Vivekananda felt that power manifested for the good of the world, not for just the good of Calcutta or the good of Bengal or the good of India, the good of the whole world. And that wave of power, he used to say, from this center, from Belur Mutt, where our monastic order was started, the waves of good will go to throughout the whole world for centuries. So that's how he conceived of this spiritual current, this spiritual wave, as it were, which was awakened or set in motion by Sri Ramakrishna himself. So that's this first quarter of the verse. Shakti Samudra Samudtatarangam Darshita Prema Vijrimbhitarangam. Vijrimbhita means Darshita, you showed, you have made manifest. Vijrimbhita, displayed, made manifest, you have manifested. Darshita Prema, the play, and it ends in Rangam. You notice the rhyme. In the first we had Tarangam, the wave on the ocean of Shakti, and here we have the Rangam, Vijrimbhita Rangam, the play. You have manifested this play of what? Prema, of love. And we already talked about Sri Ramakrishna's love and his tremendous devotion, how he would lose himself in utter devotion. That was his primary spiritual practice, as when he began his spiritual practice, was to love Divine Mother, to love Mother Kali. And through prayer and tears and the force of devotion alone, he realized Divine Mother. And of course, afterwards, he did many formal practices. So this is, we find in Swami Vivekananda also, he comes back again and again to this theme of love, which he calls in one place a feeling of oneness. That this is the real practice of religion, is the feeling of oneness that is love. If love could be described as the manifestation of Advaita, the manifestation of non-duality in our experience of duality, because it's drawing us together. Love is that which brings us together. And Vivekananda himself also equated love with the divine. He said this wonderful line, if you see a cat loving her kittens, stand and pray, you are in the presence of God. How amazing. If you see a cat loving her kittens, stand and pray, you are in the presence of God. So here, Sri Ramakrishna displayed this tremendous love. First, love for the divine, and then love for his disciples. It's tremendous love for his disciples. Each disciple, they used to say that, I thought he loved me best. But they all thought that. They all thought that he loved me best. So objectively, you could see that he seemed to be particularly attached to Vivekananda, Narendranath, but all of them felt he has extra special love for me. How could he do that? Because he was just an ocean of love, as it were, an ocean of love, a wave on the ocean of power, manifesting this tremendous play of love. And then this third, then we'll move on to the second line of the verse. Saṅśaya Rakshasa Nasha Mahastram. This is beautiful. All the avatars, Rama and Krishna, they had to kill many demons, right? They had to, that was part of their job. Rama had to kill Ravana. The Rakshasas, they are the demons, the Asuras and the Rakshasas. Now we can say, was you calling Sri Ramakrishna an avatar, but what demons did he kill? Well, he killed this demon, the Saṅśaya Rakshasa, the demon of doubt. The demon of doubt. Saṅśaya Rakshasa, Nasha Mahastram. Nasha means destruction. Mahastram, the great weapon. Astram, the weapon, the sword or weapon. Maha, he is the great weapon destroying the demon of doubt. And we can say, if we look at the world today, the state of the world, it seems to be, at least from some angles, to be in a pretty difficult situation. And what is that demon which is eating? You know, the Rakshasas, they eat human flesh. That's their nature. So what is that Rakshasa which is eating the flesh of all of us? We can say it's ignorance of the divine, or it's doubt in the verity of divinity, of our true nature. And this was the gift of science, no? Science came and said, hey, look, the world wasn't created in 7 days. It was created in, or in, there's a science to it. And look, evolution is true. We can prove it. Well, then that means God didn't create all the animals just as it looks now. Then doubt comes in. And it seems that the scientists, the neurologists, they like to think that they can explain everything by neurology alone. We don't need God because everything's explained by biology. Consciousness is just a byproduct of neurons firing. Well, if that doubt comes, then what's the purpose of life? What meaning is there in life? Well, just to eat and drink and be happy and steal as much as I can to enjoy, because it's all going to come to an end, but at least let me forget that and try to enjoy as much as I can right now. That's the demon, which is eating the vitals of human society. Sri Ramakrishna's life is the weapon to destroy that doubt. Whenever some doubt may come, and doubts do come for all spiritual seekers. Sri Ramakrishna reminds us many times, doubts are not completely dispelled until we get direct realization of the divine. Until we have direct experience, we will always have some doubts. But look at Sri Ramakrishna's life. Again and again, he describes his own realizations. He says, yes, I myself have realized, I have seen God, and I can show him to you. And we see how he would touch his disciple, and they would relate how they would have a spiritual experience. By a mere touch, their doubts would be dispelled. So even now, though we don't have Sri Ramakrishna in the flesh in front of us to give us that magic touch, but still, just by reflecting on his life, we can dispel those doubts that eat at our spiritual practice and eat at our peace of mind and our joy. So Sangshaya Rakshasa Nasha Mahastram, and then the fourth quarter of the verse, it repeats in both of these last two verses, Yami Gurum Sharanam Bhavavaidyam. Yami, I go to Gurum Sharanam, I take refuge in the Guru, which theme comes again in Om Hrīṃ ṛtam, the second hymn which we sang tonight, that theme of taking refuge. And who is the Guru? The Bhava Vaidyam. It's an interesting idea. The physician, the world physician. Bhava, world. Vaidyam, physician, doctor. He's the physician who heals for the world. And what is that? What are we ailing from? Well, we've already been discussing that. Ignorance, misery, doubt. All these things are our ailments, our spiritual ailments. And the Guru, Sri Ramakrishna, is the physician to heal those ailments. And therefore, we take shelter in him. Where can we find shelter in this world? Where can we find a permanent, safe abode? There's no place, actually, in the manifested world which is permanent. We know that from our study and if we're just thinking about it, that even this world itself will come to an end. When the sun runs out of hydrogen, and it'll become a red giant before collapsing into a white dwarf, and it will absorb the earth. Gone. So where's the refuge then? Where's the safe harbor? In the divine. So I go for refuge to the Guru, who is the physician, the world physician. The translation given here is the physician for the malady of relative existence. All right, let's do the last verse. Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Advaya Tattva Samahita Chittam Projala Bhakti Patavrita Vrittam Karma Kalevaram Cheshtam Yami Gurum Sharanam Bhava Vaidyam Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva Naradeva Deva Jaya Jaya Naradeva. So of course, these verses, typically the lines are repeated. I didn't repeat them for the sake of, in the interest of time. Okay, so here we have again this idea of the covering of devotion comes. Advaya Tattva, the truth of the non-dual reality. Advaya, non-dual, Tattva, truth, non-dual truth. Samahita Chittam. Chittam, his mind, is samahita, it's fully absorbed in the non-dual truth. We know that Sri Ramakrishna struggled to keep his mind down to teach human beings. But the natural state of his mind was to merge in samadhi, in the Advaya Tattva, the non-dual reality. Advaya Tattva Samahita Chittam Projvala bhakti patavrita vrittam. Projvala, the projvala bhakti, that radiant devotion is patavrita, is covering him. You can say the cloth of supreme devotion. And karma kalevaram adbhuta cheshtam. Kalevaram actually means body. So karma kalevaram. Usually the translation is given as he was ever active for the good of humanity and whose actions were all superhuman. Karma kalevaram adbhuta cheshtam. Adbhuta means amazing, wondrous, incomprehensible. Cheshtam, actions, is what he did. Karma kalevaram literally means whose body was work itself. Given the idea, of course, is that his whole body, it was dedicated for the welfare of humanity. So karma kalevaram adbhuta cheshtam. So the translation we have here is whose mind was identified with the non-dualistic truth, whose person was wrapped in the cloth of supreme devotion, whose body was work itself, given for the welfare of humanity, and whose deeds were extraordinary. Then, yami gurum sharanam bhavaidhyam. I go for shelter to the Guru, who is the physician of the world physician, bhavaidhyam. Swami Vivekananda himself said that Sri Ramakrishna, because when the devotees would see him, he was always in a devotional mood. And he would start chanting the divine names. He would begin to weep just in the joy of the divine. And he taught mainly devotion. For most people, he felt the path of devotion is best. Swami Vivekananda would say, yes, he was pure jnana, covered with a thin veneer of devotion. The devotion was on the outside, and inside it was pure knowledge. This advaya tattva samahita chittam. His mind was actually merged in the non-dual truth. But there's this covering of devotion. And he would say that he was the opposite. He actually had this covering of wisdom, of knowledge. He taught Vedanta. He taught the principles of Vedanta. Mostly he taught especially Jnana Yoga, or even if he's teaching Bhakti Yoga. But Swami Vivekananda would not be singing and weeping on the platform when he's teaching. He was teaching from the standpoint of Vedanta, the standpoint of Upanishads, the principles of Vedanta, the principle of Brahman, Atman. Brahman and Atman are ultimately one. These kinds of principles. So he was, on the outside was jnana, but on the inside was devotion. So he would say that they actually were opposite in that way. Sri Ramakrishna is all jnana on the inside and bhakti on the outside, and Vivekananda is jnana on the outside and bhakti on the inside. A tremendous lover. Vivekananda, especially you'll see it in some of his hymns, like this one, and even more so in the one we'll take up tomorrow, and also in some of his letters, and some of the reminiscences people had of him. So this brings to a close our study of this short hymn. It's 4 verses, plus this little refrain, 2 verses chanted in this beautiful, unmetered chant. There's no rhythm to it, just a free chant, I guess they call it, a free chant, ācaṇḍālāpratihatarayo, describing his master as an embodiment, an embodiment of that same being which was manifested or took birth as Rama and as Krishna, has now come as Ramakrishna, and describing on the one hand his tremendous love, that he is come for the welfare of all, that he is covered with devotion. That comes twice. Do you notice? In the first verse and in the last verse comes this idea of wisdom being covered with devotion. And then also with the tremendous power of awakening us from the sleep of ignorance, bringing us to the light, and then this wonderful idea of the power also, this play of love and this destroying the demon of doubt. So I think that's enough for tonight. We've talked for an hour. Om asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. From the unreal, lead us to the real. From darkness, lead us unto light. From death, lead us to immortality. Om, peace, peace. Sorry, I didn't leave any time.